to Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective. You're listening to episode 78 for the week of May 24th, 2020. I'm your host, Drew, and I am joined by longtime no see, Will.
What's going on, man?
Dude, we have not recorded an episode together in what seems like forever.
Tell me about it, man. I mean, we're both full of vitamin D and no podcasts.
Yeah. We had an opportunity to bank a couple of interviews, and you and I recorded, I want to say like 6 or 7 shows in the span of like 3 weeks or something
Holy
ridiculous. Crap. It was pretty quick. You know, we did a lot of stuff in a very short amount of time, and then we kind of just took some time off and enjoyed some of the weather, and and now we're out of content. So,
well, here we are. We're still alive and well.
Yeah, man. How's everything going? How you doing?
Honestly, man, I couldn't be better. Just like you said, I think it's been nice for us to take a small break, enjoy some of the nice spring/summer weather, and just kind of get outside and have some more time to crank in some gaming. And I'm just happy to be back. I think both of us can't go too long without recording because we start itching. And, we're definitely ready. We're overdue at this point.
I've had some very in-depth discussions planned for you going on 4 weeks now. And and now we can finally talk about them. I'm very excited.
Likewise, man.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, everything's been going pretty great. We're still working on that, weird COVID schedule, and we're trying to adjust to life with the new normal that things are, or at least as they seem to be for the moment. But other than that, my allergies are raging. It is the time of year where everything that grows decides to barf all over the place.
Yep.
And, my allergies are just really not being very nice and very kind to me. I'm constantly blowing my nose or other gross things. And, it's just part of the deal in the Northeast. My car is filthy. It is fucking filthy, man. I need to wash it desperately. We just bought a power washer. I'm super excited. I'm going to power wash my car. We're just waiting for an opportunity to actually do it. There's just been no time. And in the meantime, it's just like layer after layer of pollen just accumulates on top of it.
That's exactly it. I mean, you beat me to the punch there. I mean, we're in a stage now where you wash your car and almost hours later, there's a layer of pollen, just yellow pollen. I
could season a salad with the amount of pollen that's on my car right now.
Oh my God, it's so bad. It's like this film, and the more you leave it, the worse it gets. So it becomes this horrible cycle of just constantly rinsing and washing and just hoping that, you get a little bit of a break.
And, the funny thing is we had a couple days where it rained, towards the end of this week. I think Friday or Saturday we had some rain. And I was very excited because, my car desperately needs to get rinsed off. So I'm like, oh, great, it's going to be raining. Well, I work, and we have a parking garage at work. So it was in the parking garage literally the entire time it rained. And then I get out of work, I go on the highway, there's no rain. So this great plan I had for rinsing off my car didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Sounds about right.
So I got to buy some car soap. I got to buy some sponges or loofahs or whatever the fuck they are.
Sudsy pink loofah.
Sudsy. Oh, man. Anyway, thank you, everybody, for downloading this show. We are going to teach you how to wash your car while playing video games. You can find us on the web at www.wdgrpodcast.com. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at WDGRPodcast. If you'd like to follow me, you can find me at ScienceStorm. Will, how can they find you?
Sure, you can find me on Twitter at Will_Gear.
So, dude, we haven't done this in a while. What do you say we open up the mailbag?
Oh my God, let's do it.
All right, so let's see here. Where do we begin? First of all, Nerdy Super Bree wants to know what our fax number is.
I feel like it's still in the confidential file somewhere in the archives. I don't know when we're going to release that.
Yeah, fax paper's at a premium these days. You just can't go buy it anywhere. All the stores are closed.
Yeah, and it's selling out like crazy, for obvious reasons. So,
Mm.
it's the number one form of communication in 2020. So, you got to give us some time. It's on back order. So that's my answer to that.
Son of a Fitch asks, if you had to pick a system to collect every game in the library, what would it be? I'd probably pick the SNES for the wide variety and quality.
I mean, I can't help but think here, Fitch. I forget his name now.
Jimmy.
Jimmy? That's right. I'm sorry, Jimmy. Yeah, Jimmy. I feel like you could potentially be on a SNES high right now because of your requirement of the was it Chrono Trigger that I think you picked up?
Yep.
So like I mean I could be totally wrong, but generally that's how I am. I get like something and I'm like, oh, this is the best system ever. But no, I mean it's a great system, great choice. I love the SNES. It was it was my first console, so it means a lot to me. In terms of my choice here, every game in the library, probably PlayStation 2. Just because that library is massive and there's, just an abundance of gems.
Yeah.
For the PS2 library. So that would be my answer.
See, I find with the systems that have larger libraries that it kind of works against you if you're trying to collect every game because those libraries are so vast, it becomes a difficult process trying to track down those last couple games to fill those gaps. Not that I've ever tried. I'm broke, but I hear a lot of stories of people trying to collect every SNES game or every PlayStation game or every NES game. The NES is a popular one, because that has about 740. I think it's 749 is the official count for the North American releases.
Wow.
And that includes like some really heavy hitters like Stadium Events, which goes for a fuck ton of money. So you have to consider when you're collecting a system how many games there are, what the average price of the games go for, and those rarities that really bring the value to the collection, how much are those going to fetch? What are they going to cost you? Stadium Events is a great example. Chrono Trigger on the SNES is a good example. If you're able to buy a copy that has the manual, the box, they're in good shape. If there's stickers are not damaged, and to some extent, if you want to get into like posters and things like that too, because those are all collectibles as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at dropping a couple $100 on one game. I have a copy of Super Metroid that I bought, I want to say maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and it's complete in box. It's got the manual. It's got everything, right? And I paid $125 plus shipping for it. Now, I don't regret that. That was a game that I really wanted to pick up because it was a game I didn't have when I was a kid. But you can kind of see like there's certain games that just have these exponentially more and more expensive entries, or parts of the system. Like I'm trying to think of another one. Earthbound is a great example for Super Nintendo as well too. For me, I think the easy answer is the TurboGrafx 16. It's got a small library for the North American library. If I want to like really get into maxing that out, the PC Engine side from Japan, I want to say has a couple hundred titles. In America, it's like 79 or it's 90 or less. I don't remember the exact number, but it's like 90 or less titles.
Okay.
And that is a reasonable size, something that I could reasonably track down. There are some really expensive games in that lineup. Magical Chase, I think, was going for around 300 to 350 last I looked.
Mm-hmm.
Bonk 3, Air Zonk, those are pretty expensive titles. And plus, I already have a leg up on the collection, so that's kind of cool. Another manageable sized library is the Wii U. And actually, if somebody is interested in getting into collecting in 2020, the Wii U is a great system to start with because it has a small library, and because the system is relatively recent, the games are kind of in that bottom of the bell curve where GameStop and other people are just trying to get rid of them. The collectors haven't started acquiring them and jacking the prices up yet. So, that's a great library to go in and get in on right now because you can find those games, including the heavy hitters, for reasonable prices.
That's a really solid point, Drew. I'm glad you brought up the Wii U. I would have never thought of that, but you're absolutely right. And, I don't know much about, the rarity of it and, how easy it is to get. But, based on what you said, it sounds like that makes sense. It's a system that's not, it's at that sort of weird in-between stage. You're absolutely right. They're trying to get rid of it. I haven't looked to see if people are selling it, but actually, you know what? On Macari, I did see somebody sell one recently for like $100. So
Yeah.
it's pretty easy to obtain from what I can see, and there are some pretty good games for it. I know Xenogears 2 or Xenoblade Chronicles or something like that. That's certainly one of the better titles. So there's definitely some gems.
Well, I mean, even Breath of the Wild came out on the Wii U.
Oh yeah,
I think you had a copy. Yeah, so there's some great titles on it. The problem with the Wii U is it just didn't sell well.
Yes.
And it was like that kind of like redheaded stepchild, pardon the phrase, but Nintendo came off this massive success with the Wii, and they were trying to kind of figure out what the next thing was. And the Wii U, while it had some great ideas, I think the execution kind of fell a little flat. Nobody really knew what to do with that touchscreen controller. And, I don't think the Switch would exist without the Wii U kind of being that middle child in between. So it was a necessary part of the process. But, it just wasn't a good seller. The Wii just knocked it out of the park. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Wii U has, I want to say, 200 games or less. It's not a large collection. And, like we were saying before, too, like that generation, the 360, the PS3, the Wii U, they're kind of on the bottom of that bell curve. You can get those games super cheap right now for the most part. There's always going to be exceptions. But from a collector standpoint, a lot of people are just looking to get rid of those games. And if you don't mind having discs, you don't mind dealing with, the threat of disc rot, that's a system that you can collect and hold on to for, probably 20 years or 30 years before you start having problems,
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's definitely, something worth looking into for sure. I'd love to do a retrospective sort of approach to the Wii U and do like a deep dive on the whole timeline with the birth and the death of that system at some point.
Sure, that would be fun. And any kind of historical stuff like that, I'm all for.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Puxor asks, now that all the major 4th edition consoles have mini consoles, Genesis, SNES, TurboGrafx, and Neo Geo, which is your favorite and which features from one would you like to see in the others? So, I know you don't have a ton of experience with these. You've really only had an opportunity to play with the SNES one.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Anything from that particular system stand out to you that, it was the kind of thing that we really wanted to make sure was in all the others?
The miniature SNES?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think, first of all, I like that little package. It was exactly what I expected it to be. Everything hooks up just right. You have that little miniature HDMI port, and that worked fine. Like you said, I didn't spend a ton of time with it, so I don't know if I have the best answer, but I think what they did, which was just keep it simple, shrink this thing down, give it the same size controllers, make it look exactly the same, and make it easy to just plug in and play. I think that's certainly the key with all of those miniature consoles.
And that seems to be a pattern, I think, with all of them. HDMI is the standard. They all use mini USB. So you can basically just take the wires out of one and plug them into the next one and be good to go, which I think is great. I don't think they intentionally standardized it, but that's kind of the path that we've gone down. On the hardware side, I do think that more of the system should send an AC adapter with it. Like they've stopped including those mini USB power adapters that we were getting with like the SNES and all of them.
Yes.
So that's kind of shitty in my opinion. Yes, I have a bunch of them, but I would prefer to just kind of keep everything in the same box and not have to go hunting for them every time I need one.
Yes.
But outside of that, like I honestly haven't spent as much time with any of my mini consoles as I would have liked to. The TurboGrafx is fresh on my mind because that was the last one that I used. but it's been a couple weeks since I've sat with it. I do think it's important that all of these systems start including more than one controller. Now, the SNES did. The Genesis, I believe, had 2 controllers as well, too. But like the NES one only had 1 controller. You had to buy a second one separately. The TurboGrafx came with 1 controller. You had to buy a second one separately. And, honestly, that's bullshit. We're spending
bullshit.
Upwards of, anywhere from $70 to $100 on these if you get them on release, and they're only including 1 controller. And I don't really care that the TurboGrafx only came with 1 controller originally, or then it only had 1 controller port originally, and you needed to buy a multi-tap. That doesn't matter to me. Give me 2 controllers so I can play my multiplayer games with people without having to spend another $30-$40. Like, it's ridiculous.
I actually was not aware of that at all, and that completely changes my answer now. I think, which systems, NES and TurboGrafx, only had 1?
Yeah, both of those only came with 1 controller. Most of the other systems have come with 2.
Now, is that because most of the games that are on the console are single-player games?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, in that case, that is absolute bullshit. If I had known that, I would have said yes, make it like the SNES, because even though that was my only miniature console, it was great. I didn't spend a lot of time with it, but like the bundle of games on there was great. The filters and what you could do in the menus was fine. And it came with 2 controllers. So yeah. I had no complaints.
I don't use any of the filters in any of mine. I think I tried the Turbo Express one briefly just to kind of play with it because it was cool. Mm-hmm. But I mean, outside of the library, being specific to each system, I think they've kind of honed in the basics of what makes these good at this point. You have games that are in the right frame rate for the right region, for starters. I'm looking at you, PlayStation. you have a well put together package with a solid software library. They all include 4 save points for each game, so that's nothing new. I think the charm of the TurboGrafx are the aesthetics of not only the system itself, but the menus and, all the little animations that it does that none of the other systems do. And it gives the system more personality than a lot of the other mini consoles. Uh-huh. But it's just icing on the cake. So I think we kind of have we have a system of kind of this package that just seems to be recycled with, each company's own flair. Sega has its own version. Nintendo has their own version. As long as they don't half-ass it like the PlayStation 1 did, which had 0 personality and was really just disappointing altogether, I think they're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Let's see here. Joe Donuts asks, everyone loves a good recommendation, so what are some non-gaming recommendations that you guys would like to share with the community? They could be books, movies, TV shows, comics, activities, whatever, as long as it's not a game.
Huh. Yeah, I read this one over and I thought, man, there's a lot of possibilities here.
Yeah.
Because we do a lot outside of gaming, just kind of in general.
I wrote 4 or 5 different things, so let's hear it, man.
Sure. I mean, I've been reading a lot lately. I've been really enjoying reading again. So I will say one book that I spent a lot of time with over the past year was a book called The Book of Life by Krishnamurti. He's a philosopher, died many years ago, and was he's fairly I wouldn't say famous, I would say fairly well known, but there are still a lot of people that don't know about him. He was a very deep philosopher, so a lot of the stuff that he said was certainly, I wouldn't say out there, but very kind of hard to digest sometimes. It's very difficult trying to describe the way that he writes and the way that he kind of gives talks and stuff, because he did a lot of talks when he was still alive in California. But anyway, that book is fantastic. It's basically done by months. So you have January, February. Each month has, I want to say, about 15 or 20 excerpts from these talks that he's done over the years. And it's really, really cool. So let's say you want to just page over into May and kind of read it that way based on months, you can. If not, you can just read it from start to finish. And it's a really good pick up and put down book. So if you just want a little bit of time to kind of meditate or just kind of read something that is a little bit more meditative, then that is a book that I reach for time and time again. Another one I'm reading now is Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. excellent book just about the world that we live in now with the sort of the pace of our digital world and how you can escape that and become a little bit more analog at times and have a little less screen time. I'm really enjoying that book.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? TV shows, not really doing a whole lot right now. Movies, I could talk about that for hours. Outside of books, I would say I'm having a great time pursuing music, so I would certainly recommend those two books and to pick up an instrument. Any instrument that you've wanted to play, find a way to play it. And if you got to save up to buy it, then do it, because that was one of the best decisions I ever made, was buying a keyboard and then a guitar and then a didgeridoo. And I actually just bought a shakuhachi, which
What's that?
A shakuhachi is a Japanese flute. It's actually used in Ghosts of Tsushima, ironically. Okay. And I'm pretty sure you can play it in that game. And Dave was the one who actually prodded me some time ago. He's like, you should get a shakuhachi when the didgeridoo was like a big thing for me. Yeah. So I finally caved and got it because I found one on Etsy because my birthday's coming up. And I was like, you know what? But they're doing really well lately with work and all this kind of stuff. And I don't really know what I want. So I just went on Etsy and I typed in shakuhachi. And I found one at a really good price. And it's fucking badass, dude. I can't wait for this thing to arrive. So I bought it technically for myself for my birthday. That's not until June 6th. But I was like, I got to get this now. There's only like one left. It's an amazing price. And normally they're like anywhere from $300 to over $1,000. Wow. So I got this at a really good steal. And, but yeah, without sounding too long-winded, read and take up an instrument. That would be my two recommendations that are not non-gaming related.
Excellent. I like that. Yeah, it's I don't know where to start. It's beautiful weather outside, and anybody that's listening to the podcast for the past year or so knows that when the weather warms up, the yard work begins. So we've been doing some stuff in the yard. I've been gardening. I cannot recommend enough having your own garden, whether it's one tomato plant in a pot on your back deck, or it's fucking rototiller into the ground, digging up a patch of the earth. Growing your own food is one of the most amazing things I've ever done.
Oh, I can't wait to do it.
It is just incredible. Well, you've already started because you have the basil, you have your all the herbs and the lettuce that you've been growing on your back deck.
Yeah, I mean, you guys inspired us, I spoke to Damien about this briefly, and he's like, yeah, Drew's really been inspiring everybody. And I was like, now that you say that, I think he really was the one that kind of sparked this for me.
Thank you. It's such a wonderful feeling. Like we planted last weekend. We went to we have a farm that's right around the corner from us that sells all our plants. And I mean, we went there for the first time last year. Last year was our first garden, and this place, I can't even begin to describe the harvest that we had. I mean, it was just incredible. Jalapenos, bell peppers, tomatoes, zucchini, squash. The cucumbers didn't do too well, but that was more of a planting issue. Like we're last year was like the trial. Like, how do we do this right? And we're trying to learn where the sun comes up so these plants get the most sun. And this year we rearranged some things. We eliminated some plants that we didn't really do too well with. We grew broccoli last year, right? And like broccoli, like it was delicious, but it takes up so much fucking space. and not only that, but like once you harvest it, like you take out that big huge broccoli head, and then for the rest of the season all you're getting are these little sprouts, which are delicious, but again, it's still taking up all this space. And then we started getting like these green slugs. Ooh. And like we weren't like, you couldn't even see them. Like you'd bring the broccoli in, you'd wash it like really good, and then you'd start chopping it up, and there's fucking slugs in it. It's like, oh, what the fuck, man? We skipped the broccoli this year, but like to kind of go back to it, just I don't care whether it's one small pot with basil. Basil's super easy to grow, and like we had for dinner, I had basil on a tomato. Just with a little vinaigrette on top, sure. Balsamic. It was amazing. And it wasn't even our own grown tomato. Those aren't even ready. But the basil was fresh and ready. Just put some earth in a pot and get your hands in there and get them fucking dirty.
Oh, dude. Amen.
And put a plant in there and water it every other day but water it thoroughly, water it good, and just watch what happens. I promise you, you give it sun, you give it water, you give it love, it will give you love back.
Inspiring, man. I mean, like you said, you've definitely inspired us to do the little herb garden and, basically just buy some flowers and some plants and stuff. And it's been fantastic. It's a really rewarding feeling knowing that you can do that and do it with your own hands. And I'm absolutely with you about getting your hands dirty too. Like when we buy potting soil, I put my hands right in the bag. I don't care about how dirty my hands get. I want to feel the soil. I want to pack in the little herbs and the plants. And Lauren's like taking the bag and trying to like gently, and I'm like, put the bag down, honey, please.
Just go in. Just go in.
She's like, why would I do that when I can just, and I was like, no, because it's about the experience.
Right.
And it sounds funny to those that are uninitiated, but you know better than I do that this is a real thing.
You just, dirt washes off.
Yeah.
Put on a pair of pants and a pair of shoes that you don't give a shit about. Everybody's got one. Right? I'm sure you have a pair of jeans that are kind of like, I'm going over a buddy's house to help paint. I'll put these jeans on.
Absolutely.
Those are your gardening jeans.
Yes.
Put them on. Get them dirty. It'll wash off. It'll wash off. You don't need to wear them to work. You don't need to wear them to a wedding.
Yeah.
Just have a pair of shit jeans and a pair of shit shoes and get in the garden and fucking have a blast.
Oh, dude. Absolutely.
And then let's see here. Outside of that, I've been kind of rediscovering reading. It's been a while since I've picked up a book. So we found this e-reader on sale for like $90 by a company called Kobo. And they're owned by Rakuten. So, they've got some pretty good money behind them. They've been around for a while. And what really appealed to me about this e-reader is it links directly with the library. So I can go onto overdrive.com and sign in with my library card and take out a library book. And it goes straight to my e-reader. So that was like the only reason, because I don't want to buy digital files. I really don't want to buy digital books.
Yeah.
But if I can borrow it from the library and it's an easy process, which it is, fucking sign me up. So I've been really enjoying that. TV shows, I cannot speak highly enough about a show called Mythic Quest: Raven's Banquet. It is a 30-minute comedy created by Rob McElhenney, who is one of the creators of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's Mac. He's the character Mac. He's the guy with the dark hair and the beard, and he's pretty jacked right now. This guy's in like wicked good shape. This show is hysterical. It's about the video game industry, actually. It's about a development team that designs and maintains the biggest MMO in the world. And it's like a Warcraft ripoff. But this team is so dysfunctional, and they hate each other's guts, and they're always fighting. But outside of that, there's so much heart and soul in this show. And they just released an episode where, it's kind of like the whole quarantine thing. So they're doing like a Zoom call, and everybody's talking and coming in and everything. And like, I was expecting it kind of be like the Parks and Rec one, which is funny, but just kind of basic. And I swear to God, this thing almost made me cry.
Wow.
It was so heartwarming and moving, and it was real. Like, yes, the concept of what they're doing is like really stupid. Like, it's a silly show, but they have that ability to just flip the switch and like get to like real emotions in a very realistic way. Cannot recommend it enough. They only have one really season. Cool. It's on Apple TV. Mythic Quest: Raven's Banquet.
Okay.
That's the name of the show. Intentionally long name.
Clearly.
And then, and then music. I mean, anytime anybody asks me about music, the first name that comes to mind is Steven Wilson. He's the best artist that nobody's ever heard of. And he's been making music for 30 years at this point. Rock, metal, you name it, pop. This guy is one of the most brilliant musicians in the entire world. If you want to know more about him, message me on Twitter or come into the Discord room and just say, hey, Drew, tell me about Steven Wilson. I will go on forever. You'll hate it. But
what have I done?
But I guarantee you'll walk away with, I think you'll walk away with something you'll like to hear.
Yeah.
So, okay, I rambled on way too long.
No, that's awesome, man. I mean, I wish I made a longer list, but it would have taken up the whole show.
Yeah. Let's see here. YMMOC. God damn it, change your name. He says, is there any one thing you're not willing to put up with in video games? What thing will make you quit playing regardless of how good the rest of the game is?
Outstanding question. Most of the best questions are the hardest ones to answer for me, I feel. What did you come up with this? Or what did you come up with for this one, Drew?
I mean, like, here's the thing. Like, it's rare that I will deliberately quit a game. You know, I will kind of just sort of stop playing a game because it hasn't like completely enthralled me. But I'll, you know, if I don't have anything major going on, I'll kind of pick away at it here and there whenever I have time. Mm-hmm. There's very little things that will make me just like say, fuck this game. I will not play you. Glitches, game breaking glitches. That's a big one. And I started playing this game recently called Dungeon of the Endless.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like a roguelike FTL thing. And there was a point in the game where I could not progress to the next stage no matter what I did. And that was kind of like, that was almost my breaking point. And if it happens again, I'm done with that game. I'm willing to kind of work my way through it and play it, you know, replay the game because it's roguelike. You die, you start over, you go through it. It's just the nature of the game. It's not like I kind of hit like this wall. But, you know, if I find that happens to me one more time, though, I'm done. Because I'm not going to invest time in a game that the developers in the course of 6 years haven't bothered to fix.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a new game. It's been on the Xbox since, I think, 2016. It's been on Steam since 2014. So, you know, fix your shit.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, if a game is good but not great, as long as it has some sort of redeeming quality, I'll continue to play it. As long as there's something in there that I'm enjoying, I can deal with a bad story if the gameplay is good. Because most of the time I don't give a shit about the story. You know?
Yeah. No, that's fair. Sorry, Lauren just brought me 3 fresh chocolate chip cookies, so I just destroyed those the whole time.
What?
that you were speaking. But they're gone now.
I want my chocolate chip cookies, man.
Well, she came down and just like smiled at me and quietly put down the plate because she knew I was recording. And I looked at her with like a twinkle probably in my eye, and then she just left.
This is the woman I married.
Yeah, these are the benefits of marriage. Because this does not happen often. You know, honestly, I don't know if I have a great answer, because I don't want to just bullshit it. You know, I don't know if I really am that kind of gamer where I've really found something that I'm not willing to put up with. I guess I could generalize it, and kind of just say like, here's what I don't like in gaming. But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like that could be sort of just not answering the question directly. I would say that something I'm not willing to put up with. I don't know if I'm nervous to say this, but I think my time with Sekiro has been great, and I am willing to put in the work and learn what I have to do to play that game well. But I think that as I've gotten older and I've gone through Dark Souls and Demon Souls so many times, and I really appreciate a good challenge in a game, I am growing into a gamer that's a little bit more. I get more frustrated with like insane difficulty, and I know there's a lot of people that are going to be like, oh, you know, it's the get good thing, and you know, we talked about that with the retrospectives guys.
Yeah.
But
which will be on the air next week.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that.
Yeah,
we both are. But sorry, I just tossed the pen.
I'm mad.
Yeah. It's important for me to have fun in a game. I think that's really what I'm trying to say in a very long-winded way. I think that when a difficulty is so extreme, I'm comfortable saying that I'm probably going to put it down for a while, maybe even forever. With Sekiro, I'm not going to do that because I love everything outside of that difficulty, and I know that sort of is the second part of the question, which is, you know, what will make you quit playing regardless of how good the rest of the game is. And Sekiro is an interesting one because I love everything about it, but I don't know if I love the extreme difficulty after I've had time to think about my time away from it. Right. So I would say that would be one thing that would make me not really want to put up with it.
I feel like Sekiro is the type of game that if you walk away from it for any length of time, the skill that you've acquired while playing it consistently kind of fades.
100%.
So then
100%.
your barrier to entry to kind of get back into that game again is a little bit higher now because you remember what you were able to do. You don't have the reflexes to do that, which you'll need to kind of relearn, but now because you've already been able to do it in the past, it's like, oh, I don't have the patience this time around.
Yes. And I think God of War really kind of changed my perspective on how a game should be. And you'll see this when you eventually get to it, and I know you will, but that game was so well crafted and so well finely tuned in terms of difficulty and just everything across the board that it made me realize like how much a game like Sekiro stands out as just brutal to the point of just not being very enjoyable. And I'm not afraid to say that. I was originally, because I was like, I'm that guy that, cherishes the Dark Souls games. I love the difficulty. I was that guy that was telling other people to get good.
Right.
But you're right. It's like piano. Like when I was playing today, I was learning a handful of songs, and when I was going back to some of the songs that I had played, like, say, 2 hours prior, I was already struggling to remember what some of them were because I took a few breaks. And even those small breaks can be enough to, have you start forgetting a rhythm of what you were doing.
Sure.
So it's very similar to that, and Sekiro's absolutely that. When I get back to it eventually, I'm going to have to probably like warm up for a while.
Yeah. Does Sekiro have like a training grounds that you can jump into to do that?
Sort of. There is a guy that you can train with. It's not going to be obviously comparable to bosses and stuff, but I could go back to some of the early areas of the game and just kind of fight some enemies and just kind of get, back into the swing of things. But I'll get to it. But yeah, to answer that, I think it really boils down to if the game is insanely difficult, I'm probably not going to put up with it. But I only will if the rest of the game is really, really good. I guess I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough. I think that's a good answer.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm kind of I wouldn't say I'm an old grumpy gamer that doesn't appreciate a challenge, but I just don't know if I'm willing to go down the sort of Dark Souls road again, sort of as a permanent course to chart, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I can respect that wholeheartedly. So, that does it for the mailbag, I think. So, folks, if you ever have any questions that you'd like us to answer on the show, swing up by our Discord room and drop a note in the mailbag chat room. Or shoot us an email at WDGRpodcast@gmail.com. You can also hit us up on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at WDGR Podcast. And you can ask your question there. Just use the hashtag mailbag so that we know you'd like us to answer it on the air.
Indeed.
So what's next, man? What are we talking about next today?
Well, I did make a couple notes here. Did you happen to see that Unreal Engine tech demo?
I kind of skimmed through it. It was pretty lengthy, so I didn't watch the entire thing.
It was lengthy.
But really fucking beautiful.
Yes. Same thing. I didn't really watch the whole thing from beginning to end with no interruptions just because I'm not always super interested in hearing all of those technicalities of how many triangles and, some of those, that sort of, tech speak and a lot of the gamer dev speak. I'm not, particularly interested in that. I'll listen to it to an extent, but, at the end of the day, I'm like most gamers. I just want to see what this thing looks like.
Right.
I've watched a bunch of videos of people reacting to it, from fans to actual like experts and all this kind of stuff, and people in the industry. And from what I gather, it certainly is just a tech demo. It could be a game. We don't know. But certainly it looks really good.
Yeah.
I think that the general consensus is that this is the first time we're seeing something that actually looks next gen for once. That looks like it's running at 4K 60. It may not be, but it does look like it is. So I was pleased to see that. I was really waiting to see something that looks like a PS5 game or looks like an Xbox One X, or Series X, sorry. And this was that. It was a PS5 demo, apparently, and it's basically just a sort of Tomb Raider type character walking around, female protagonist, and just kind of walking through a sort of open, Uncharted, like Horizon Zero Dawn mixture of things. Basically, just a sort of outdoor world with, dust and rocks and cliffs and all the kind of usual stuff that you would see in these sort of games. And, it's shown off the lighting, the shadows, the textures, how they transferred a lot of stuff from, I guess, ZBrush over, all of that kind of stuff I'm not, proficient in. So I don't really know what they're talking about. But apparently, according to the experts, it was a very impressive showcase. And,
I enjoyed what I saw.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think a lot of us are curious to see more of this kind of stuff, but I think it's a start, and it was refreshing to see it, because I think the first time I watched it was just only last week, because it's a very new video that just kind of surfaced out of nowhere. I'm not sure if it was from State of Play or some other kind of conference or event, but yeah, it looks good. I'm excited, but I think right now people are hard pressed to know how to be excited, because we just don't know really what it is. Like, it could just be, people are so skeptical now that they just look at something like that and they're like, well, it's a tech demo, number one, and number two, like, we don't know if it's a game, and it looks so good it's probably running on PC. There was a lot of people that were like, this there's no way that this can be running on a PS5. So people were impressed, but they were also very skeptical.
Which I think is, fair and only natural.
Yeah.
To be, we've been duped so many times by publishers, at E3, it's like, this is what the game looks like. And then 2 years later, when the game comes out, it looks nothing like that,
Yep.
It happens constantly.
Yeah.
If everything that they said is true and accurate, my God.
Yeah.
The lighting on that engine is unbelievable. I almost said unreal, which would have been funny.
I think I did that last week too.
It's incredible. And then I think the thing that impressed me the most was the individual rocks sliding down the cliff, a couple times when there was like animal movement or something. That was stunning, just absolutely stunning. But the problem with a new engine like this, especially paired with a new console, is it's going to take a few years for people outside of Epic to really figure out how to harness that. I think, and I'm not a developer of any kind, so I'm sure we'll get some feedback from Pucks, if not a couple other people, on what that process is like. But like, the past 2 or 3 years of the PlayStation and the Xbox have been, graphically the best ones, because it's taken them that long to figure out how to use it. And then it still takes them another 2 or 3 years to make the fucking game afterwards.
Yeah. So, I think a lot of us forget how long some of these games take to make.
Right. So if you're expecting those types of graphics when you bring home your PlayStation 5 or your Xbox Series X this holiday season, probably going to be a little disappointed.
Yeah.
But in 2 or 3 years, I think we'll start to see that quality.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we're all accustomed to what happens every single time we get a new console, which is the same sort of cycle where you get some nice looking games, at launch, and some of them look really good, but most of them just look nice, nice improvement. But yeah, like you said, it takes time. Those end of cycle games that we're seeing now, come out for the PS4 and even the Xbox One, they look really, really fucking good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without just being super excited about having the next shiny thing. Like, if you're capable of waiting, to buy the new system, you might as well, because there's not going to be that huge graphical fidelity. I think we might see it in the frame rate. I think that'll be visible, because of the horsepower that both these consoles are going to have. But if you're a PC gamer, like, there's no point. They're already getting that quality.
Yeah. No, you're right, man. I think that kind of brings me to sort of my next point, which is like, do I get this PS5 day one, or do I wait? And I know we've had that discussion before, but it just makes me think, do I wait and then have a really hard time getting it when I am ready to get it? Or do I get it and have it and then not really have too many games to play for it, because I'm not really a fan of the launch games. So I think a lot of gamers go down that road every single time.
Well, I think the best of both worlds is to start putting aside the funds now, so that when it's time to pull the trigger on this system, if you decide by the time they've revealed the launch games that you absolutely have to have it, you're financially prepared. You're not throwing it on a credit card and, putting yourself in a hole, right? So start putting aside money now. And if you don't end up buying it, well, now you've got yourself $600, $700 sitting in the bank waiting for when you are ready.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's great advice because we don't know. We don't know anything right now. Yeah. We might know later on in June. There's rumors going around that PlayStation is supposed to do something in June, but at this point, I basically just check in like once or twice a week, just for quick updates, and then I move on.
I will say that one benefit of buying into a console early on is because there's so few games, you have plenty of time to play the games that you have.
Yes, very important.
You don't have to worry about that like onslaught of games coming out all in the same time like we just went through.
Yeah, so. It's funny, thinking back on the PS4 launch, I don't really remember too much that was super important to get. I think it was like Battlefield 4 and Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and that was kind of the end of it.
Yeah. I think when I got the Xbox One, I think I picked up Need for Speed, whichever the one was that came out at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And NBA 2K14 or something, or 2K13.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever year, I think that's one came out in 2013. So I bought the NBA game that year because I'm like, well, it's something that maybe Nikki will play with me because, it's a sports game. It's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was like it. Like there wasn't a lot, There wasn't a lot. I wasn't interested in Rise, Son of Rome, so I didn't buy that. And, and it wasn't like I was like without video games. Like I didn't sell my system, so I was still playing the 360 for, a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I've always just kind of coined it in my mind that those games are just very launchy, if that makes any sense at all.
That makes perfect sense.
They're just very launchy. Like Rise, Son of Rome is a launchy fucking game.
Yeah, well, it was supposed to be a graphical showcase for the system, and there wasn't a lot of substance to it.
Yeah. They end up just being like generally shorter games, and people are just like, meh, I'm just going to wait for, whatever game it is that they know is going to come out for it that's going to be, a showstopper. So it's just the way that we are, I guess. But I will say, have you seen this new Ghosts of Tsushima State of Play showcase trailer?
I have not.
Oof. So how excited I've been for this game. I can't believe, and I think that I'm right on this, but I want to say this game debuted in 2018, I believe, which is crazy to me. I thought it was just like last year that they announced it. Time flies, I guess. But yeah, this came out. I was unaware of this State of Play conference or whatever the hell it was.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of State of Play before, but I just don't really know what it is. But anyway, 18 minutes of gameplay was shown, all brand new footage, and I was blown away, man. I mean,
really?
It starts out basically with Jin, who's the main protagonist, with that really cool, authentic Japanese, like sort of straw hat that's like really big. And he's got this like sort of cape blowing in the wind, and there's a huge emphasis on wind that they've introduced now. And I've known that from some of the early footage of just kind of grass blowing and flowers blowing and lots of fields blowing in the wind. And, that stuff looks good, but it turns out there's a reason for that. And it's because you can use wind in the game to help guide you, which I think is really amazing. So there's that. Everything just looked fantastic, like from the get-go. Like as soon as they showed Jin just kind of walking on this mountain, I think people were just like, jaws were on the ground. This thing looks next gen. He jumps on the horse, you start riding through the fields, you're collecting bamboo. And what they basically do is they showcase 3 different versions of this character. So you have like meditative, I'm going to play the shakuhachi and ride my horse Jin. And then you have Ghost Jin, who can sneak around sort of Assassin's Creed style, and his whole getup and outfit is totally different. And then you also have Samurai Jin. So I was really excited to see that because there's basically 3 different sort of characters or sort of types of characters that you can play. So you're playing Jin, but you can be a samurai, you can be a assassin / ghost, and then you can also be a sort of traveler.
Okay.
And I'm really, really excited for that because a lot of games you're just kind of doing the same sort of thing. Like you're The Witcher or you're, whatever in Assassin's Creed, and that's kind of your main thing. But to implement 3 different sort of play styles with completely different outfits and everything, I think is really quite something. Ultimately, though, this was a showcase for, I think, visuals, because there's just a huge emphasis on how this game looks. A lot of people were saying what we've been talking about just a few moments ago about how these later console games just hit differently. They look incredible. I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing that it's coming at the end of the PS4's life cycle, because the PS4, I wouldn't say the life cycle's over. This system's still very relevant, and it's going to be relevant just like every other system that's still being sold when the next gen system comes out.
Oh yeah,
there are people that still play PS3s like online and stuff, and don't even have a PS4 because they either don't have the money to get one or they just don't want it. So as long as those consoles exist, people are going to keep playing them. But yeah, I am officially excited for this game now. This sold people. That's really what it was.
I'm looking forward to seeing this game in action. I think maybe I need to check this trailer out, because
yes,
it seems like I've always been really into samurai stuff, and Sekiro would have been right up my alley if it wasn't a Souls-like game. I think this is going to be more up my alley and more along the lines of what I'm looking to do.
Yes, it looks way more accessible. I'm sure there's going to be a challenge, but that's fine. They even have a black and white mode, which they're basically coining as like a sort of Kurosawa mode, which is a throwback to, I guess, the old Kurosawa films, where a lot of that stuff was black and white. The music is breathtaking. And when I say that, I'm sort of underlining the word breathtaking. It reminds me of like a combination of The Last Samurai and like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Ooh. It's just beautiful, like sort of Yo-Yo Ma type stuff, where it's just ethereal and somewhat haunting but beautiful all at the same time. It's got some Tenchu vibes in there.
Yeah.
Tenchu 1 had tremendous music at times. So yeah, man, and then the fact that it comes out in July, I was like, wait, what? Like, holy crap, it's almost June. Like, I gotta hurry up and get at least FF7 beat and The Last of Us and some other stuff if I can before we hit July, because that is absolutely going to be day one for me.
Yeah.
Pre-order, preload, the works.
Nice.
So yeah, check it out. 18 minutes, totally worth it. And it's actually one of the better presentations I've seen in a long time. It's very well structured. Pacing's really good, and there's I don't think there's really any tech speak whatsoever. It's just like, hey, this is Jin, and this is what you can do. This is the wind effect. This is how fucking beautiful our game looks. And enjoy, because we're that confident. And I've never played a Sucker Punch game, and this is going to be my first.
That's awesome, man. I'm excited for you. And I'm kind of excited myself, too,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we should do like a watch it together thing. Like over Skype, just get ourselves on camera and I want to see like a Drew reaction.
All right. Well, we can maybe try to record that and upload it to YouTube or something.
Yeah.
So people can see me making faces.
Yeah.
or forgetting the camera's on and like sticking my finger up my nose or something stupid.
Yeah. EL fudge cookies. That's awesome.
Oh, man. Yeah. That's awesome, man. It sounds like it's going to be a really good game. Hopefully it pans out.
God, I hope so. I really hope so, because I don't want it to be bad. There's always that fear, but I think that so far this is looking very promising.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool.